Story number 1. The Cursed Treehouse. Winter in Louisiana had a way of turning the sweltering heat into a biting chill. But nothing could have prepared me for the eerie stillness that enveloped the old treehouse at the edge of Willow Creek. My name is Michael Harris, a freelance journalist with a penchant for uncovering the hidden stories that lurk beneath the surface of small-town America. When I heard about the abandoned treehouse built by the wealthy Sinclair family in the 1950s, I knew I had to investigate. The Sinclair family was once the talk of Willow Creek, their wealth stemming from a successful plantation and various business ventures. The treehouse, an elaborate structure nestled high in an ancient oak tree, was their pride and joy, a place where their children, Emily and Tommy, would escape the rigidity of their privileged lives. But the prosperity was short-lived. A series of tragic accidents claimed the lives of several family members, shrouding the Sinclair legacy in mystery and sorrow. By 1970, the treehouse stood abandoned, the family gone without a trace. Local legends spoke of strange lights emanating from the treehouse at night and the haunting sound of children's laughter echoing through the woods. Skeptics dismissed these tales as mere folklore, but those who dared to venture close swore they felt an unsettling presence watching them from the shadows. Determined to uncover the truth, I arranged to spend a night in the treehouse. Armed with my camera, voice recorder, and a flashlight, I set out on a crisp December evening. The journey through Willow Creek was quiet, the town asleep under a blanket of snow. The only sounds the crunch of my boots on the icy ground and the distant hoot of an owl. As I approached the oak tree, the silhouette of the treehouse loomed against the darkening sky. Its once vibrant paint now faded and peeling. The structure was still impressive, with intricate woodwork and large windows that seemed to peer into my soul. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside. The interior was cold and damp, the air heavy with the scent of mold and decay. Moonlight filtered through the broken panes, casting long, ghostly shadows across the floor. I set up my equipment in the center of the room, the silence around me almost tangible. Minutes turned into hours as I waited, the anticipation building with each passing moment. Just as I was beginning to lose hope, a faint sound reached my ears, a soft giggle, light and carefree, emanating from the far end of the treehouse. My heart pounded as I grabbed my flashlight, scanning the room for any sign of movement. "Hello," I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. The laughter ceased, replaced by an oppressive silence that pressed down on me. I tried to rationalize the experience, convincing myself it was just the wind or an animal. But the unease lingered. As midnight approached, the temperature dropped further, my breath visible in the dim light. Suddenly, the door slammed shut with a force that rattled the entire structure, plunging me into darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight, the beam flickering to life just in time to catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure standing at the entrance. "Who's there?" I demanded, my voice trembling. The figure remained silent, his presence cold and unyielding. I felt an invisible force pressing against me, a chill that seemed to seep into my very bones. "I mean no harm. I'm just here to understand." The air grew thick with sorrow, and the voice of a woman echoed through the treehouse, her tone filled with despair. "Remember us. Honor our memories." I felt a wave of sadness wash over me, the weight of the family's tragic past pressing down on my conscience. Determined to help these restless spirits find peace, I began to speak, sharing their story out loud, recounting the events that led to their downfall. "You were a happy family, filled with love and hope. What happened here? How can I help you find peace?" The atmosphere shifted, the oppressive cold lifting slightly as a sense of calm began to envelop the treehouse. The shadowy figure at the entrance moved forward, its form becoming clearer, a man in a 1950s suit, his face etched with sorrow. "They took everything from us," he whispered, his voice breaking. "We cannot move on until our story is told." Tears welled in my eyes as I realized the depth of their pain. "I will tell your story, I promise." As I spoke, the treehouse seemed to breathe, the air filling with a sense of release. The spirits of Emily and Tommy appeared, their faces peaceful as they smiled gratefully at me. The man faded into the light, his presence now a lingering warmth rather than a cold shadow. The night passed peacefully after that, the treehouse now filled with a sense of tranquility. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight filtered through the windows, casting a golden glow over the once haunted structure. I packed up my equipment, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. The Sinclairs had finally found peace, their memories honored and their stories remembered. In the days that followed, I shared my experience with the town, ensuring that the legacy of the Sinclair family was preserved. The treehouse, once a symbol of tragedy, became a place of remembrance and reflection, a testament to the enduring power of memory and compassion. Every winter, as the first snowflakes begin to fall and the nights grow long, I think back to that fateful night in the cursed treehouse. The image of the Sinclairs, their sorrow and hope intertwined, serves as a haunting yet beautiful reminder of the thin veil between our world and the next. Their story, once shrouded in mystery and fear, now stands as a beacon of empathy and understanding, forever entwined with the shadows of Willow Creek. And so, as I continue my journey as a writer, exploring the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows, I carry with me the lessons learned from the cursed treehouse, a beacon guiding me through the darkness, illuminating the path towards honoring the memories of those who linger in the silent corners of our world. Story number 2. Whispers from the Treehouse. Winter in Willow Creek, Texas, was unforgiving. The nights stretched long and cold, the darkness wrapping the small town in a suffocating embrace. My name is David Miller, a local journalist with a knack for uncovering stories that lurk beneath the surface of our seemingly quiet community. When the disappearance of 9-year-old Tommy Harris occurred nearly a decade ago, it left an indelible mark on the town, and it was a story that had never fully been resolved. Tommy was an adventurous child, full of energy and curiosity. His favorite spot was the treehouse his parents had built in their sprawling backyard. It was more than just a play structure. It was a sanctuary where Tommy would escape the pressures of school and the complexities of growing up. On a bitter December afternoon in 2014, Tommy was playing in the treehouse, laughing and shouting with his friends, when he vanished without a trace. The treehouse stood tall among the sturdy branches of a grand oak tree, its wooden planks worn smooth by years of use, despite exhaustive searches by the family, friends, and local authorities. There was no sign of Tommy. The only clue was the unsettling stillness of the treehouse, the familiar sounds of his laughter replaced by an eerie silence. Years passed, and the treehouse became a relic of the past, a symbol of unresolved grief and lingering mystery. Eventually, the Harris family decided to tear it down, hoping to move forward from the tragedy that had shattered their lives. During the demolition, workers discovered something chilling. Etched into the old wood were the faint, desperate words, "Help me, I'm scared." Intrigued and unsettled by the discovery, I delved deeper into the story, interviewing the Harris family and friends who had known Tommy. They spoke of strange occurrences even before his disappearance. Unexplained noises, fleeting shadows, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. Tommy had always been sensitive, often mentioning that he felt like someone was watching him. But no one took it seriously until the day he vanished. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to revisit the site of the treehouse. Equipped with my camera, a voice recorder, and a flashlight, I returned to the Harris residence one chilly November evening. The house stood silent, its windows reflecting the cold light of the moon. I made my way to the spot where the treehouse once stood, now just a cleared space amidst the snow-covered lawn. As I began to set up my equipment, the wind whispered through the bare branches, carrying with it a sense of foreboding. I activated the voice recorder, hoping to capture any residual energy left behind. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Hours passed with no sign of activity, the night growing darker and colder. Just as I was about to pack up, a soft giggle echoed through the air, unmistakably Tommy's. My heart raced as I spun around, flashlight beam piercing the darkness. "Tommy," I called out, my voice shaky with a mix of fear and hope. No response. Instead, the air grew colder, my breath visible in the frigid night. Suddenly, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, moving swiftly towards me. It was Tommy, or at least his apparition. His eyes, once full of life and mischief, now bore an emptiness that sent chills down my spine. "David," he whispered, his voice hollow. "Help me." I stumbled back, the realization hitting me like a ton of bricks. Tommy was still trapped here, his spirit unable to find peace. "What happened to you?" Tommy pleaded, tears welling up in my eyes. Before he could respond, the temperature plummeted further, and the shadows around us began to twist and contort, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to reach out towards me. The air was thick with sorrow and fear, the oppressive atmosphere making it difficult to breathe. Desperate to help, I reached out my hand, but it passed through him like mist. "I need to find out what kept you here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Tommy's apparition nodded slowly, pointing towards the old treehouse site. "The house? It holds the key." Determined to uncover the truth, I spent the next few days researching the Harris family's history. I discovered that Tommy's disappearance was not an isolated incident. Several children in Willow Creek had reported feeling watched and experiencing strange phenomena before vanishing without a trace. The town was steeped in a dark history of unexplained disappearances, all seemingly connected to the treehouse. Armed with this new information, I returned to the site, this time with the Harris family present. As dusk settled, casting long shadows across the lawn, we set up our equipment once more. The atmosphere was tense, the air heavy with anticipation and fear. As night fell, the temperature dropped sharply, and the oppressive silence was broken by faint whispers and distant cries. The voice recorder picked up fragmented sounds, pleas for help, screams of terror, and the haunting laughter of children. The shadows around us seemed to dance and move with a life of their own, each one more menacing than the last. Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled, and the remnants of the treehouse began to reappear, the wooden planks and nails reconstructing themselves as if by magic. The whispers grew louder, converging into a single, anguished cry, "Let us go!" The Harris family stood frozen, their eyes wide with fear as the spectral apparitions of the missing children materialized around us. Tommy's ghost floated above, his eyes pleading for release. "Remember us, honor us." I knew what I had to do. "I promised to tell your story," I vowed, my voice steady despite the chaos around me. "I will make sure you are never forgotten." As I spoke, the spirits began to fade, their forms dissolving into the night air, replaced by a sense of peace that had long eluded them. The temperature rose, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as the treehouse disintegrated once more, leaving us in the silent, snowy backyard. Exhausted but determined, I dedicated myself to uncovering and sharing the stories of the missing children, ensuring that their memories lived on and that their spirits found the peace they so desperately sought. The etched words in the old treehouse would become a poignant reminder of the importance of remembering and honoring those who have been lost. Every winter, as the first snowflakes begin to fall and the nights grow long and silent, I think back to that fateful night in Willow Creek. The image of Tommy's ghost and the lingering whispers serve as a haunting yet beautiful reminder of the thin veil between our world and the next. His story, intertwined with the countless others, stands as a testament to the enduring power of memory and the unbreakable bonds that connect us all, even beyond death. And so, as I continue my journey as a writer, exploring the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows, I carry with me the lessons learned from the cursed treehouse, a beacon guiding me through the darkness, illuminating the path towards understanding and compassion for the restless souls that linger in the silent corners of our world. Story number 3. The Faceless Watcher. Living in rural New York offers a kind of peace that's hard to describe. The vast expanse of trees, the quiet nights, the way the seasons seem to blend seamlessly into one another. It's the reason my wife, Claire, and I chose to raise our daughter, Emily, out here. Our property, tucked deep in the woods, was far removed from the chaos of city life. It was the perfect place to grow up, or so we thought. The treehouse had been my idea. Emily, 7 years old at the time, loved climbing trees and reading her books perched on a sturdy branch. Let's give her a space of her own, I told Claire one evening, already sketching plans on the back of an envelope. Over the next month, I worked tirelessly, hammering and sawing until the treehouse was complete. A cozy little retreat nestled high in the largest maple tree in our yard. It had a peaked roof, 2 windows, and even a small balcony where Emily could sit and look out at the woods. The joy on her face when she first climbed up that ladder was worth every splinter in my hands. She spent hours up there, playing, reading, and sometimes just staring out into the endless green. Felt like a dream come true for a while. The first time Emily mentioned the man, it was almost an afterthought. "I don't think he likes me up there," she said over dinner, pushing her peas around her plate. "Who doesn't like you?" Claire asked, setting down her glass of water. Emily shrugged. "The man in the tree." Claire and I exchanged a glance. "What man?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "The man without a face," Emily replied matter-of-factly, as if she were talking about the neighbor's dog or a bird she'd seen earlier. "He just stands there, looking." I felt a chill creep up my spine. "Honey, there's no one in the tree. It's probably just a shadow or maybe a branch that looks like a person." Emily nodded, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. Over the next few weeks, Emily's stories about the faceless man became more frequent and more detailed. She described him as tall, with no features at all, standing perfectly still among the branches near her treehouse. Sometimes he was closer, she said, almost within arm's reach. Other times, he was further away, deeper in the woods but always watching. We tried to reassure her. Claire suggested that it was her imagination running wild, maybe fueled by a scary story she'd heard at school. But Emily was insistent. "He's real," she whispered one night as I tucked her into bed. "And he doesn't want me there." By this point, she had stopped going up to the treehouse altogether. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, I decided to check out the treehouse myself. It was late autumn, and the woods were eerily quiet, the kind of silence that makes your ears strain for any sound at all. Armed with a flashlight, I climbed the rope ladder and pulled myself inside. The treehouse looked just as I'd left it. A small pile of books in one corner, Emily's favorite blanket folded neatly on the wooden bench. But the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. I turned off the flashlight and peered out the window, letting my eyes adjust to the darkness. The trees stood like silent sentinels, their bare branches swaying slightly in the cold wind. And then I saw it. First, I thought it was a trick of the light, a shadow cast by the moon filtering through the branches. But the longer I stared, the clearer it became. A figure stood among the trees, motionless. Couldn't make out any details. But something about the way it stood, the unnatural stillness, made my skin crawl. "Hello," I called, my voice shaky. The figure didn't move. I fumbled for my flashlight and shone it toward the spot. But the beam only illuminated empty branches. The figure was gone. Claire and I debated what to do. Was it possible someone was lurking on our property? A drifter, maybe, or some kind of prankster. But the more we thought about it, the less sense it made. Whoever or whatever Emily had seen didn't leave footprints in the snow. It didn't make any sound, and it never came near the house. Still, we couldn't ignore Emily's growing fear. She refused to play outside, even during the day, and she had started having nightmares about the faceless man. One night, she woke up screaming, saying he'd been standing outside her bedroom window. That was the last straw. The next morning, I grabbed my toolbox and headed to the treehouse. Claire tried to convince me to wait, to think it through, but I'd made up my mind. If the treehouse was the source of Emily's terror, then it had to go. As I dismantled it piece by piece, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The air felt colder than it should have, and every creak of the wood under my weight made me flinch. By the time I removed the last plank, the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the yard. When I was finished, I stood there for a moment, staring at the now empty space where the treehouse had been. The maple tree loomed above me, its branches bare and skeletal. And then I heard it, a soft rustling, like footsteps on dry leaves. I turned, heart pounding, but saw nothing, just the woods, dark and silent. After the treehouse was gone, the strange occurrences stopped. Emily seemed to regain her confidence, venturing outside again and playing in the yard like she used to. The faceless man became a memory, a story we told ourselves to explain something we couldn't understand. But sometimes, on quiet nights when the wind blows through the trees just right, I catch myself looking out the window toward the maple tree. And in those moments, I wonder if he's still there, watching, waiting, because some things don't leave. They just hide, biding their time. And in the silence of the woods, time is all they have. Story number 4. Whispers in the Forest. Winter in Oregon was a time of silent beauty, where the dense forests stood cloaked in snow, their towering pines and cedars heavy with white. The air was crisp, each breath visible in the fading light of day. As an avid outdoorsman and storyteller, I was always drawn to the unexplored corners of nature, seeking inspiration for my next tale. When my group of friends, Jake, Mia, Sarah, and Liam, decided to build a treehouse deep within the Willamette Forest, I knew this was the perfect setting for our weekend adventure. We arrived on a chilly Friday afternoon, the sky a blanket of gray clouds threatening a storm. Armed with tools, supplies, and an unquenchable spirit of camaraderie, we set to work. The chosen tree was a majestic Douglas fir, its branches sprawling wide, offering the perfect vantage point for our makeshift sanctuary. As dusk approached, we finally stood back to admire our handiwork. A sturdy wooden structure nestled high among the limbs, complete with makeshift windows and a ladder leading up to the entrance. After a hearty dinner, we settled into the treehouse, the warmth from our campfire seeping through the walls. The night outside was serene, the only sounds the whispering wind and the distant call of an owl. As we drifted into sleep, the forest around us seemed to breathe, the shadows lengthening and merging with the darkness. It was during our first night that the eerie whispers began. At around midnight, Jake was the first to wake, his eyes darting around the dimly lit treehouse. "Did you guys hear that?" he whispered, his voice tinged with fear. I sat up, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. "Hear what?" "Whispers. Coming from below us," he replied, gesturing towards the base of the tree. The others stirred, and soon, Mia, Sarah, and Liam were wide awake, listening intently. The whispers were faint at first, barely audible over the gentle rustling of the leaves. But as the minutes passed, they grew louder, more distinct, words melding into a sorrowful plea. "Help us. Remember us." Curiosity mingled with fear as I peered out of the makeshift window, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness below. My heart raced as I saw a shadowy figure climbing the ladder, moving with deliberate slowness. "Guys, there's someone out there," I whispered, pointing towards the figure. Jake nodded, his face pale. "Should we call them?" Before anyone could respond, the figure reached the base of the tree and vanished into the forest, swallowed by the impenetrable darkness. "Let's check it out," Liam suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. Grabbing our flashlights, we descended the ladder cautiously, the cold night air biting at our skin. The forest was eerily silent, the only movement the occasional flutter of a moth or the distant howl of a coyote. As we approached the spot where the figure had disappeared, We found nothing but footprints leading from the edge of the clearing into the dense woods, then vanishing altogether. "We should go back," Sarah urged, her voice shaky. "This feels wrong." But our sense of adventure kept us moving forward, deeper into the heart of the forest. The whispers continued, guiding us like invisible threads, pulling us towards an unknown destination. The footprints led us to a small, abandoned campsite, long forgotten by time. A decaying tent stood nearby, its fabric torn and frayed, and scattered around were remnants of past lives, rusted utensils, faded photographs, and an old, broken lantern. Mia picked up one of the photographs, her hands trembling. It showed a family smiling under the canopy of the very tree we had built our treehouse in. "Look at this," she said softly. "This must be the place." A chill ran down my spine as realization dawned on me. They must have lived here, used the treehouse before us. Maybe something happened to them. As we stood there, the temperature seemed to drop even further, our breaths forming small clouds in the frigid air. The whispers grew louder, now forming coherent sentences. "Don't forget us. Help us find peace." Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled, and the abandoned tent began to shake violently. We stumbled back, trying to steady ourselves as the whispers turned into anguished cries. The lantern flickered to life, casting eerie shadows that danced around the campsite. From the darkness, apparitions began to materialize, ghostly figures of the family from the photograph, their eyes hollow and filled with sorrow. "Why won't you let us go?" the father figure cried, his voice echoing through the trees. "We are trapped here, unable to move on." Tears welled in my eyes as I stepped forward, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. How can I help you?" The mother figure reached out, her hand passing through my chest without leaving a mark. "Remember us. Tell our story so we are not forgotten." As the apparitions surrounded us, their presence grew stronger, the oppressive atmosphere pressing down on us. I felt an overwhelming sense of sadness and responsibility, knowing that their suffering was now intertwined with ours. "I will remember your story," I vowed, my voice steady despite the fear gripping me. "I promise." With that promise, the spirits began to fade, their forms dissolving into the night as the whispers turned into peaceful sighs. The cold lifted, replaced by a gentle warmth that seemed to envelop us. The abandoned campsite returned to silence, the memories of the restless spirits finally finding solace. We made our way back to the treehouse, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, casting a hopeful glow over the snow-covered forest. The whispers had ceased, and a sense of calm settled over us, a silent acknowledgement of the promise we had made. In the days that followed, we shared our experience with friends and family, ensuring that the story of the lost family was remembered and honored. We organized a memorial at the site, lighting candles and placing the photograph at the center, a tribute to the souls who had once called the forest home. Every winter, as the first snowflakes begin to fall and the nights grow long, I think back to that fateful night in the Oregon forest. The image of the haunted treehouse and the sorrowful spirits serves as a haunting reminder of the thin veil between our world and the next. Their story, intertwined with ours, became a testament to the enduring power of memory and the importance of honoring those who have been lost to time. And so, the whispers in the forest continue to echo, not as remnants of fear, but as a beautiful reminder of the lives that once thrived beneath the canopy of snow-laden trees. As long as there are stories to be told and memories to be cherished, the spirits of the forest will find their peace, forever entwined with the whispers of the wind and the silent beauty of winter in Oregon. Story number 5. The Man in the Tree. Winter in Crestwood, a quaint little town nestled in the heart of California, had a way of transforming even the most ordinary settings into something eerie and foreboding. The nights grew longer, and the chill in the air seemed to seep into every corner of our lives. My wife, Lisa, and I had always prided ourselves on creating a happy home for our 2 children. Emma and Jack, when we finally saved enough to build a treehouse in our sprawling backyard. We thought it would be the perfect sanctuary for them, a place to dream, play, and escape the hustle of everyday life. The tree we chose was an old oak, its branches sprawling wide and strong, providing the perfect foundation for our project. The construction was a family affair, filled with laughter, sweat, and the occasional nail sticking out. By the end of summer, the treehouse stood proudly, a testament to our hard work and dedication. Emma and Jack were thrilled, their eyes sparkling with excitement as they explored every nook and cranny of their new haven. However, as the leaves began to fall and winter approached, a strange unease settled over our household. Emma and Jack started refusing to play in the treehouse. At first, I dismissed it as a fleeting childhood fear, perhaps a bad dream or an overactive imagination. But their discomfort grew more pronounced each day. They would retreat indoors whenever the snow began to fall, insisting that someone was watching them from the shadows of the tree. One chilly evening, as I sat by the fireplace sipping a warm cup of cocoa, Lisa approached me with worried eyes. "Have you noticed how they avoid the treehouse lately?" she asked softly. I nodded, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "Yeah, I've noticed. I thought it was just a phase. But now I'm not so sure." Determined to get to the bottom of it, I decided to investigate. The next day, armed with a flashlight and a sense of apprehension, I ventured out to the treehouse. The backyard was quiet, the snow blanketing the ground and muffling any sounds. As I approached the oak tree, I felt a chill run down my spine, the air around me growing colder with each step. Climbing up to the treehouse, I noticed something unusual. Small scraps of fabric and old newspapers strewn around the floorboards. My heart pounded as I carefully inspected the area, the realization dawning on me that someone had been living in the treehouse. My mind raced, struggling to comprehend how a homeless man could have found refuge in our meticulously built sanctuary. That night, as snowflakes danced outside our windows, I decided to confront the mystery head-on. I stood by the window of the treehouse, watching the darkness that enveloped it. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional howl of the wind. Hours passed with no sign of movement, the tension in the air thickening. Just as I was about to lose hope, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, stepping cautiously into the treehouse. My breath caught in my throat as I saw him, a disheveled man with hollow eyes and a haunted expression. He didn't speak, simply standing there, his gaze fixed on me through the window. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. He didn't respond, only continued to watch me intently. I took a step forward, feeling an inexplicable pull to understand his presence. "Why are you here? What do you want?" His eyes, devoid of any warmth, seemed to pierce through me, delving into my very soul. I felt a surge of emotions, fear, sorrow, and an overwhelming sense of helplessness. "Leave us alone," pleaded, turning away. But before I could retreat, he reached out a trembling hand, his fingers brushing against the window pane. A cold gust of wind swept through the treehouse, and the lights flickered ominously. I stumbled back, my heart racing as he began to fade, his form dissolving into the shadows once more. The next morning, I shared my experience with Lisa, our conversation filled with a mix of disbelief and concern. "We need to do something," I said firmly. "This isn't normal." Determined to protect our family, I decided to seek help from the local authorities. Officer Ramirez, a seasoned law enforcement officer with a pragmatic outlook, listened intently to my story. "We've had reports of strange occurrences around that area," he admitted, "but no one has ever found anything concrete." Undeterred, I delved deeper into the history of our property, uncovering unsettling truths that had been buried for years. The land our home sat on was once part of a larger estate, rumored to have been the site of numerous disappearances and tragic events. Old newspapers spoke of a man named Henry Lawson, a hermit who had vanished mysteriously one winter night, leaving behind only whispers and legends of his restless spirit. Armed with this new information, I felt a connection between Henry Lawson and the man haunting our treehouse. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, painting a picture of a man driven to desperation and despair, seeking solace in the shadows of our home. One night, as I sat alone in the treehouse, the atmosphere thick with anticipation, the presence returned. This time, Henry Lawson's spirit was more defined, his sorrow palpable. "Why do you keep us here?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Tears welled in my eyes as I realized the depth of his anguish. "I don't know how to help you," I admitted, my heart aching for the lost soul trapped in our treehouse. He reached out once more, his touch cold and intangible. "Remember us," he pleaded. "Honor our memories." As the words hung in the air, a sense of calm washed over me, the oppressive fear giving way to empathy. I knew what I had to do. I began to document Henry's story, sharing it with the town and ensuring that his memory was honored. We held a memorial service, inviting others who had heard similar tales to share their experiences and offer prayers for the restless spirits. Gradually, the hauntings subsided. Emma and Jack began to play in the treehouse again, their fears replaced with curiosity and wonder. The oppressive cold lifted, replaced by a sense of peace that had eluded us for so long. The presence of Henry Lawson no longer cast a shadow over our lives, his spirit finally finding the closure it had long sought. Every winter, as the first snowflakes begin to fall and the nights grow long, I think back to that fateful encounter. The image of Henry Lawson, standing silently in the darkness of our treehouse, serves as a haunting yet beautiful reminder of the importance of remembering and honoring those who have been lost. His story, intertwined with our own, became a testament to the enduring power of empathy and the unbreakable bonds that connect us all, even beyond death. And so, the man in the tree became a part of our family's legacy, a story of sorrow, redemption, and the unyielding human spirit that seeks to bring peace to the restless souls lingering in the shadows of forgotten places.